Hi everyone, welcome to week 9 of Educational Psychology. I'm sorry I haven't really checked in with you all via video, but this week I thought it would be a really good idea to start talking a little bit about our final paper that's due. That's the Educational Philosophy paper. So I wanted to make a little video to kind of walk you through the rubric and expand upon those criteria. And this will connect very nicely with your Check for Understanding activity this week, for which a portion is going to be allocated to getting started on this paper. So first, I just want to walk you through the paper, give you a little bit of background information on it, talk about the criteria we've covered so far. So at this point, if you could, please pull out your syllabus and reference Appendix D, and that's where you'll find the rubric for this paper. So that's available on D2L, or if you have a hard copy, just go ahead and grab that. It'll be really useful for you to look over that while I'm talking. So actually, first I'm going to just read over the description for this paper, to give you some general background information. So you're required to reflect on and integrate information learned about the psychology of human development, learning, motivation, and instructional theory into your personalized educational philosophy paper. The paper should be 3 to 5 pages in length and is worth 55 points. The page length I'm not too worried about, particularly if you're going beyond the page requirement. I think any shorter than 3, you're probably not going to be able to cover all of the information in the rubric, but I could definitely see them going beyond 3 to 5 pages, and that would be okay. So by that description, what we're really looking for here is your philosophy, or what you value, what's important to you related to these educational psychology principles applied to your particular practice with your particular field and population. So first, you'll start the paper off with your introduction, talking about what drew you to the major, who you're going to be working with, what population, what is your job title. Are you going to be a teacher, a counselor, a speech-language pathologist? Tell me about yourself, your future aspirations, and tell me what that looks like. I think my dog wants to say hi. Okay. So I'll go ahead and take a look at that introduction section and think a little bit about how you're going to describe that portion of the paper to me. Then you're going to walk through each of the subsequent criteria in the order they're presented in the rubric, or in a sequence that makes the most sense to you. And you're going to talk about how each of these domains relates to your field, and you're going to tell me what your philosophy is related to education or your particular future career goals, and pull these principles, theories, and practices that we've talked about within each of these domains into a synthesized kind of write-up of how that would look in your work. So for example, we talked about developmental theories at the beginning of the semester. We had a few chapters where we covered development. So you'll tell me about how these theories play a role into your future practice, and really describe the particular pieces or theories that you're pulling from and how that will influence your work. So for example, I'm going to be a school psychologist, and I may say that Piaget's theory of cognitive development really influences my future practice, because I'm going to be largely assessing the cognitive functioning of individuals of different developmental areas. And so Piaget has given me a baseline to look at what cognitive development looks like and what the constraints on that are related to particular developmental phases. So I would talk about that, talk about the influence it will have on my work, and then I would probably also talk a little bit about the social development of the students I'm going to be working with. So I may say that I plan to work with adolescents who Erickson would suggest are in the role versus identity confusion, or identity versus role confusion, excuse me. They're in that social developmental phase, and I would talk a little bit about how that work or how that theory would influence my work. So you'll just be really pulling from things we've talked about in the class and talking about what that looks like in your work. And lucky for you, you've already done a lot of this work in your Check for Understanding activities every week. You've already been thinking a lot and critically about how you apply these principles into your work. So beyond developmental theories, we've also covered learning theories. We talked about behavioral and cognitive learning theories. So you're going to be doing the same thing there. And there's some nice prompts within each of these domains on the rubric talking about some ideas that you can pull from to get you started in that. And we've also covered the effective learning environment and the effective lesson. So at this point in the semester, you would be able to completely write up these sections of your paper, or at least minimally the expectation is you're going to get started and generate some ideas related to these domains that we've covered. And that way the work's not kind of overwhelming you at the end of the semester, and also I'm able to check in with you and your work and see if there's any areas of confusion. We can clear that up related to the assignment, and if I think that you have some really great ideas, I will tell you that as well. So in your Check for Understanding activity this week, you're going to be looking at this assignment, and we're going to be working with this content. And I will be providing with some very explicit feedback on what you've turned into me. So it's really important for your benefit for this final paper, since it's a large portion of your grade, that you're checking in with that feedback. And if you have further questions based on the feedback that I've given you, reach out to me via email and we'll talk about it, or we can meet in person and talk about it. But I would really like for this paper to be a product that can follow you through the rest of your college career, maybe something you look back on later when you're in your future profession, to see, just how do these principles relate to the work I'm doing? What were my goals and aspirations for myself at this time? How does that relate to what I'm doing in practice now? So just broadly speaking, those are kind of the particular domains that you're going to be covering and how you're going to be approaching them. We haven't covered everything yet, but at least half of the paper's criteria we have. So of course, be sure to clearly summarize your work at the end. Don't just stop abruptly, and double check your work, proofread, have a friend read it, take it to the writing center. Any of those options are permissible and encouraged. Just make sure that it's a very organized and grammatical error-free paper that you're turning in. Related to formatting, you could speak in the first person using I statements, of course, to talk about yourself and the work that you see yourself doing, but I would like it to be APA style in the sense that it is going to be double-spaced, 12-point font, and the font type should be Times New Roman. So please make sure to double space and use that font and that font size. And please submit it to me as a Word document. If you're someone who has turned things in via PDF and we've had that work out in the past, this is one document that I really, really prefer to be in a Word document. So if you're still having barriers to getting that into me as a Word document, we can talk about it and work something out, because it's really important for me to check your work through Word. That's really the engine, the product that we need to be using. So I'm really excited to kind of read through your papers and see what you've come up with to date. And if you have further questions, which hopefully you do maybe, we can address those in the subsequent week. So thank you.